Welcome back to Bison Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
And I'm Dash Mentzel.
We are back on a Wednesday. I'll be out of town this weekend, so we'll give you some good content early in the week. Starting off with Bison football, they're coming off a big win against Illinois State, 24-7. This time at home, good game.
It was a very solid performance overall on the offensive and defensive side. While the offense didn't put up a ton of points, they definitely did what they needed to do, threw the ball a lot more, and running game is still as good as ever. Meanwhile, the defense, other than one drive where they gave up a touchdown, shut down the Illinois State offense, and Zach Annex did.
Yep, in the first half, the offense did pretty good. They kind of utilized their plays, kind of like they did in the beginning of NDSU in the first half before they went cold. They utilized the pass game, they spread the ball around a lot. They barely ran the ball in this game.
Yeah, and that's something that you normally see out of this NDSU offense. We normally talked about them always running the ball all the time, and we were wondering, when are they going to utilize the pass game? Are they going to? Do they trust Cam? I think all these questions are starting to get answered as we have definitely been passing the ball a lot more. They're trusting Cam with new passes, new routes, new plays. I definitely like what I'm seeing there.
Yeah, they had a couple good plays, especially with Braylon Henderson towards the end of the first quarter. They're still continuing to get the ball to Hunter Lukey in different ways, like the lining up it is play action and lining him up at tight end. They're utilizing in different ways, just to, because he didn't have that many touches in this game.
No, he didn't, but I think that was part of Vince's plan because he mentioned in the post-game press conference that was all part of the game plan. It was all right that he wasn't getting many touches because they wanted to shift the defense over to him, move him over to tight end, so the defense has to cater more to him, and then meanwhile run plays to the other side. So I think that's a great game plan.
And I know we were talking about this, in the beginning, the fans wanted the Bison to pass the ball even more. And now it looks like they're passing way more than they're running now.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that's very interesting to see. And I just said, we don't see this very often out of the NDSU, at least recently. We remember last year, towards the end of the year, that all they did was run the ball every game. And sure, it would win them games. And even at the beginning of this year, hardly passed it at all. And I think it was after that SDSU game that something clicked to be like, we have to trust Cam more because he did great in the first half in this game. And once we ran away from the pass, the offense just shut down because SDSU was able to know how to stop the run. Meanwhile, Illinois State, they had no answers for NDSU's offense all day long.
Right, defense in the first half, like you said, Illinois State's QB, Zach Ennisted, they did a good job holding him. Obviously, he's going to make a few plays. He had a couple of dots, but after that first drive, they started to fill him out a little bit more, and, the Bison gave him some help.
Yeah, and NDSU's defense, even with how injured they are at certain areas, especially on the D-line, Tony Pierce had to come out for a little while in this game. They still did a great job overall, and they definitely played. One big problem that we had talked about recently was the lack of tackling and, the fact that they had missed tackles a lot. And they did a lot better with that this week. Like, hardly any missed tackles. He got the big interception by Dustin Talbert for the first one that he's had since the JMU game back in December last year. So the defense overall on every level did outstanding in this game.
Yeah, I'd say the only blow took in the first half, that one-on-one matchup between Eubanks and I guess just the other guy won the battle. But those are the certain plays, the Bison need to make to, get a turnover.
Yeah, and unfortunately that's been one thing this year. The defense hasn't gotten a lot of turnovers ever since the beginning of the year. And one thing that is a big problem for that is because NDSU has at least 5 dropped interceptions this year, and I know that's something that it drives Entz nuts when he sees that dropped interceptions, those missed opportunities, and the players always want to make it up to the coach. And Talbert got the interception this week, thankfully, so at least NDSU got 1 turnover this week.
And in the second half, the offense kept the good tempo going. I know we mentioned this last episode. You're like, you especially don't like when their offense lets their foot off the gas. In the second half, either they don't trust Cam or they're trying to play it safe. How do you feel about that?
Even though they didn't score a lot of points in this game, I feel like they never let off the gas. They kept to the script. They kept to the game plan, which was pass the ball quite a bit, but also make sure to get a steady dose of the run game in there too, mostly with Demarick Williams and Kobe Johnson. And I like that game plan. Sure, at the end of the day, it's not going to get you 50 points, but you don't need 50 points. When you have an offense that could stay out there for like 7-8 minute drives, get a touchdown, or at the very least take a bunch of time off the clock so their defense is rested up, so the defense doesn't allow a lot of points. I think that's the perfect game plan to win most of your games.
I think they're just going out there and playing good football. They weren't trying to do anything extra. They weren't expecting anything. Just get in, get out, get your points with. Hey, they were just playing good football, in my opinion. How do you think? Do you think the offense kind of shifted because of SCSU games? Like you said, the Bison week. They just focused on themselves and went back to the drawing board. Do you think this is something we could continue to see for the rest of the season?
I mean, it's what happened last year. After the SDSU loss, you saw some things change in this offense. They definitely used Hunter Lipke a lot more after the SDSU game, and it's what worked at the end of the year. And now they're doing the same thing again. What works best for this offense now? And I think they're finding what works best. A steady dose of the pass and getting a consistent run game with multiple people.
Yep, and Hunter Lipke actually wasn't utilized that much in the backfield. Why do you think that was?
And like I mentioned, I think Matt Entz wanted part of this game plan to be to get attention to Lipke, but not in the backfield, to move him over to that wing spot, move him over to the tight end, so the defense has to shift their attention to that side. Meanwhile, the offense can use plays to the other side or run the ball in the other direction. And they also used him in the pass game again this week. He got a reception for a touchdown, so even when you don't use him in the run game, you can always use him somewhere.
Yeah, and to get into the offense as far as analysis, I think Cam Miller did a great job in this game. He didn't do that bad to me in the SCSU game. I mean, only thing in the second half, when they're down, he's got to bring that team back up to par, you know what I mean? But as far as this game, I think he got a good tempo, consistent, and kept it all the way the whole game. 20 passes, 3 straight weeks. We've seen a lot of passing in this offense.
And they had 30 passes this week. Yeah. And another thing, too, about Cam's game that I really liked from this past week, even when he didn't pass it, he had a lot of plays when he saw nothing was available and was able to tuck it down and scramble for a good 4 yards, 5 yards, or even 10 yards at times. And that's the kind of thing that we need to see from Cam. Making sure to not make any costly mistakes, not take a sack, or not turn the ball over, to move the ball in any way possible, even when the receiving options aren't there.
Yep, as far as on the ground, Kobe Johnson, he's back in the mix. He looked pretty physical in this game. It looked like, he's back to 100, so that's good.
He was definitely needed after that loss to SCSU. He wasn't in that game, so he's definitely a key part of this offense. And while he may not stun anybody with, amazing big plays all the time, he definitely gets you those 4 or 5 yards whenever you need them. And it's the same thing with Tamarick Williams.
And I remember asking you this in the beginning of the season. When is Kobe Johnson, going to have a breakout game, just show what he can do, like the 97-yarder he had last season. He's kind of been quiet, I know he just got hurt, but he's kind of been quiet.
Yeah, and that could also be a testament to the fact that the offense has just been using Hunter Lipke a lot so far this year, and Tamarick Williams had his breakout game against Indiana State. So I don't think it's the fact that Kobe's slowing down. I think it's just the fact that everybody else is, everybody's getting better. And, it's hard to stand out when literally your whole running back core is just a bunch of all-stars.
Well, I'll say this. Actually, we're seeing less and less of Jalen Bussey, Dominic Ganella, and guys like that. Like we said, that group was full. Now we're only seeing about 2 guys now. So how do you feel about that?
It may just be a transition in what this offense wants to do. They might want to go with the bigger running backs, the ones that can get you those 4 or 5 yards guaranteed every time. That just might be a transition in the game plan, especially with the run. Yep,
and as far as receivers, the ball got spread out to a lot of receivers. We saw Eli Green got his first reception. We haven't seen much of him, redshirt freshman. And then, as always, Zach Mathis got his touches, and then Braylon Henderson made a statement in this game. He's one of those guys, low-key guys, not really people talk about that much, but he did good in this game.
He's definitely a downfield threat that nobody really talks about. We talked about losing Phoenix Sproles. I think he's a good Sproles replacement. Very similar, kind of the smaller wide receiver, more slot, but a deep threat, and that's something that we need because losing Christian Watson last year, we lost that speed threat going downfield. Something needed to replace that. And I think Braylon Henderson is a good replacement for that speed threat who can get those deep balls.
As far as the defense, Logan Kopp made his first start in this game, and he looked pretty good stepping up because James Kaiser is out hurt. He did a good job stepping up in this game.
Yeah, and considering that Kaiser was out, this was an amazing performance by Logan Kopp. And not only Logan, the fact that you also get Cole Wisniewski back as well. And that's one thing that I was really hoping for this defense, to get Cole back, to be able to lead this linebacking core that had kind of struggled with certain things in the last few weeks. But now that he was back, Logan Kopp had himself a great game. Overall, the linebacking core did an phenomenal job. They only held Illinois State to 76 rushing yards. They did great.
And we've been harping on the defensive line. Hey, they held Illinois State to under 100 rushing yards, so that's pretty good.
And only 143 passing yards. So and most of that came on that touchdown drive. So you take that touchdown drive away, this defense had an amazing game.
Now let me ask you this. Further through the season, they lost a lot of guys, and they can't afford to lose any more guys, to be honest, on that defensive line alone. So how do you think this is going to play out the rest of the season? We're kind of getting to crunch time. They only got, 3 more road games before they get into the playoffs. How do you think this is going to play out for the rest of the season?
It is a bit nerve-wracking to see that, especially at the defensive end position, that area get thin. And we saw Tony Pierce get injured in the second quarter of this game, and that means guys like Cole Menz are going to have to come in and play snaps. But one thing that this game showed me too is even with all the guys down and out of the picture, it seems like when this defense is gelling together, when they do their assignments, it doesn't matter who's in there.
Yep.
They can all get the job done, which is something that makes me feel really good heading into these last few weeks.
And like you said, tackling, man. They really made an emphasis on tackling and getting to the ball. To be honest, they kind of almost got chippy out there. I heard, like when you saw Dawson Weber hit that guy and got up, maybe they got to find that fire and really, get the team involved.
And that's why I think it's the same thing as last year once again. What gave them that fire last year at the end of the season? The loss to SDSU. It gave them that fire. And I had a feeling after the loss to SDSU, especially with the bye too. I feel like the bye's done week. I feel like that also helps a lot. It built that fire too because it gave them that extra time for that fire to grow.
To get into some offensive stats, Cam Miller completed 20 passes for 174 yards and 1 touchdown. Kobe Johnson led the backfield with 10 carries with 51 yards. And for the receivers, Braylon Henderson led with 4 receptions and 67 yards. Dash, what is the defensive stats?
The defensive tackle leader was Dawson Weber with 8 tackles. Logan Kopp had 7 tackles in his first career start, and Michael Tutsi and Will Mostert had 4 tackles each. The defense also had 1 sack, which was by Spencer Wagee, and the defense also had 5 tackles for loss.
Yeah, that defense is looking pretty good. Being that as much as they lost, maybe we're not giving that defense enough credit with the people that lost and they're still be able to perform this way. I mean, 7 points, that kind of quarterback too. I think we should probably give them their flowers for holding it down for this long without some key pieces.
And that's been the story for the defense the last few years, and a lot of it has been through either graduation and losing a lot of good players to transfer portal as well. This defense has been hit hard by the transfer portal a lot in the last few years. Jasir Cox, Josh Hayes, guys like that who all of a sudden leave and you don't know, unexpectedly now you have to replace them. And the next guys up have always been able to carry that torch.
Yep, they're now 6-2 overall and 4-1 in the conference. They're still sitting at number 4 on the FCS top 25. They'll be on the road against Western Illinois on Saturday at 1 p.m. The Leathernecks are not doing well at all. They haven't won a single game yet. I predict the Bison get this 24-7. I think the Bison have an edge over this team.
Yeah, Western Illinois has had a very unfortunate season. They've taken a step back from last year. They had a few games won last year. I thought that maybe they could improve on that this year. And unfortunately, they haven't even gotten a win yet. They had a crushing loss against Youngstown State a couple of weeks ago at home where they had a 10-point lead with less than 4 minutes to go and ended up losing that game. So I think even though it's been a while since the Bison have traveled to Macomb, it's the same thing with Terre Haute. They haven't been there since 2018, so not a lot of players on this team have been there before. But I think the Bison still get the easy victory. I predict 45-10.
And you're worried about the field. I'm worried about just being on the road. We haven't seen their best performance when they're on the road. That's what I'm worried about. But I still got them winning by a lot of points, even though, and I still haven't got my score prediction. I think you came close. I don't know if you haven't got it right, or did you?
I actually came close last week. I was only 3 points off on Illinois State score. I got our score right. I didn't get theirs right though.
Yeah. So hopefully they can get I just wanted to get a big win, man, just to get their confidence booster.
And you were talking about games on the road. It's definitely tricky too because the games on the road this year have included Arizona, South Dakota, and Indiana State. I mean, giving Indiana State credit, a lot of the games that they played at home this year, they have played tough.
So how do you think this is? Okay, so after this, they're on the road again against Southern Illinois, I believe. With them winning this game against Western Illinois on the road, do you think, how do you think that's going to project into the next week against Southern Illinois?
They still have to play it 1 week at a time, especially at this time of the year. Every win matters, especially now that they already have 2 losses on the season. And it's not going to get any easier from here. Southern Illinois, while they've been on a bit of a skid lately, they are still a playoff contending team, and we know what happened the last time the Bison went there back in the spring of 2021. And then North Dakota as well. They've been struggling a little bit lately too, but they are definitely not a team to sleep on. They are also a team that's trying to fight for a playoff spot at the moment. And last year, they played us tight, so we'll have to see how that game goes this year in the Fargo Dome.
Yep, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have several other sports to cover. Stay tuned.
One kid, one mentor, plus one moment can unlock limitless potential. One heart-to-heart. One inside joke. 30,000 youth are waiting. Be there for one of them. It's time. Become a big today.
The NDSU bookstore has everything you need to show off your Bison pride. The bookstore can have you sporting green and gold wherever you go. It offers many different brands, sizes, styles, and selection so that you find exactly what you're looking for. Shop the NDSU bookstore and show your spirit today.
Founded in 1985, the Missouri Valley Football Conference has established a tradition of FCS football excellence. Competing at the highest level of NCAA Division I, student athletes at its 10 institutions demonstrate character, passion, and integrity as they grow as a student, an athlete, and a citizen. The Missouri Valley Football Conference, where leaders are shaped and champions are forged.
There are so many great things to experience at NDSU. It's hard to pick one, but my favorite is
the people. They make it such a warm place. The Bison aren't just across the country, they're across the globe.
It's the perfect distance from home. The faculty are our biggest cheerleaders. Hands-on research experience. The affordable tuition.
All the opportunities to stay active on campus.
Real-world learning experiences.
once I got on campus, it felt like home.
Welcome back. We're going to kick this segment off with Bison soccer. So unfortunately, they fell to Oral Roberts 2-1 in double overtime last Friday.
That is one of the toughest ways that you can end a season right there, taking it all the way to the brink in double overtime. You know, and how long that is. We've filmed games before that went into overtime in soccer, and that is a long time to be out there. And I can't imagine for the players after all that effort and all that time to lose to end your season. That's just got to be so hard.
Yep. Or you scored in the 31st minute and ending the half 1-0, and then 50 seconds later after the half, NDSU got one with Page goalie tying it up, going into OT, scoreless, both teams scoreless, then in double overtime. Or you unfortunately put the nail in the coffin, man. It's double overtime. It's just unfortunate, especially making it to the Summer League Championship, because they didn't make it last year, so they already have something like to prove, like honestly, and they just couldn't get it.
Yeah, making it to the tournament this year, and it's very rough. And we talked about last week what NDSU could do to win this game. Because Oral Roberts won the regular season game 2-0. And we mentioned that NDSU had to play tougher defense. They had to keep the ball on their side of the field, and which they did.
Yeah, which they did.
And that's why Oral Roberts only got one goal. And NDSU got one goal as well. But unfortunately, it was just a matter of capitalizing on offensive opportunities, which has been a problem with this team all year, and it's reared its ugly head again in the game.
Page goalie would be the one that's one shot, one kill. She got one shot and one goal, and one shot on goal. Dash, what are some other stats?
Kelsey Callio had 2 shots, and both of which were on goal. And then Jess Hanley had 2 shots, one of which on goal. NDSU also had 13 shots on goal, and same with Oral Roberts. They both had 13 shots on goal. And NDSU had 4 saves. Oral Roberts had 5. And talking about offensive opportunities, this is a big one right here. NDSU had 6 corner kick opportunities. Guess how many Oral Roberts had? Big old goose egg, 0. They had no corner kick opportunities. NDSU had 6, and they still couldn't out-muscle Oral Roberts.
It's just unfortunate. With the loss, NDSU season comes to an end. They finished 8-9-3 overall and 4-5 in the conference. Dash, I got to ask you, because we've been talking about this basically the whole season. What do you think they're going to do in the coaching, position? He did lead them to the, Summer League Championship tournament, but they didn't, get the results they wanted. However, he still made it. So how do you think they're going to make the switch, or do you think they're going to keep him?
I think they're going to keep the gang around. I mean, this was definitely an improvement of a season over last couple of years, and I think it's definitely proven that in certain games, NDSU has shown their full potential. They've shown their fortitude by playing in a couple of games that nobody really expected them to win. Like, remember the South Dakota game at the end of the year? They beat South Dakota 4-1. I'm not sure there was a lot of people outside of this team that were expecting that kind of outcome. They thought it was going to be close, but NDSU showed the potential that they have, and they showed everything that they had to the Coyotes. So I feel like if they keep getting more performances like that next year, they could be a team that could actually contend for the conference championship next year.
So just looking ahead to next year, how do you think they're going to perform? Because they're not losing too many seniors, and that next team, there's going to be a lot of vets on that team, starters from freshman year. So how do you think they're going to perform next season?
It's the same thing as last year, pretty much. There were only a handful of players that left last year. It's going to be the same thing again this year. So you're going to get a lot of players who have multiple years of starting experience. So this team could honestly, if all the cards go right, this team could be really dangerous next year and give teams like Denver and South Dakota State maybe a run for their money for the conference lead if everything goes right.
We'll see what happens. Moving on to volleyball, they had a good game on Saturday, but got humbled on Tuesday at home. They swept Oral Roberts 3-0 on Saturday. In the first set, both teams went back and forth, but Kelly Johnson connected on 3 straight aces to get the Bison in front 10-7, taking the set 25-20.
In the second set, NDSU came out a little bit faster, doubling up Oral Roberts 8-4 after back-to-back kills from Michelle Glover, and they later closed out the set, winning 25-17.
Yep, they kept the ball rolling in the third. The Bison built an early lead of 11-6, later taking that set 25-17. Allie Hinsey led the Bison with 14 kills, 15 digs, and 2 assists. Dash, what are some other stats?
Kelly Johnson had 40 assists, 11 digs, 1 block, and 1 ace. Michelle Glover had 8 kills and 1 block, and Syra Tanchin had 12 kills.
And then on Tuesday, they lost to number 6 SDSU, sorry about that, 3-1 in 4 sets at home with the help of the Benson Bunker Fieldhouse.
That was definitely a little bit of a shock,
Yeah.
and considering that 2 of NDSU's biggest losses this year have come at home in the Benson Bunker Fieldhouse, the UND loss and now SDSU. But you also have to remember, anytime that NDSU and SDSU play each other in any sport, they're going to give it all they got.
Yeah, it was a tough blow. In the first set, the Bison were leading 11-7, and then the Jackrabbits scored 4 straight points to take the lead 16-14, taking that set 25-23.
In the second set, however, it was quite opposite. The Jackrabbits came out with a 13-9 lead, but then the Bison responded with 6 straight points of their own to make the score 15-13 following an attack error. They held off SDSU to secure that set 25-21.
Yep, in the third, SDSU would reply. They built a 10-4 lead and just kept their momentum going and taking that set 25-17.
And then both teams battled in the fourth set. It was an amazing battle in the fourth set. There were 13 tie scores and 6 lead changes. SDSU was able to steal a late 18-16 lead, but the Bison weren't giving up just yet, making a 4-0 run to make a 20-18 lead. However, the Jackrabbits closed out the set on a 6-2 run to steal the win 25-23.
Yeah, Allie Hinsey also led in this game, 14 kills, 24 digs, and 2 assists. Dash, give me some other stats.
Michelle Glover had 11 kills and 4 blocks. Syra Tanchin had 11 kills and 1 block. And Kelly Johnson had 38 assists, 4 aces, and 3 blocks.
So they are now 10-3 in the conference, still second in standings. They'll be back in action on Saturday against UND. You know, UND is also a rival, so this can go. It's not going to be a cakewalk. They sit at number 5 in the conference, so this should be a good one.
And remember what happened when UND came up here on homecoming for NDSU. It was a hard loss. I'm sure NDSU is wanting to look for revenge after what happened there, and especially after what happened this past Tuesday as well.
Yep, we'll see what happens. And then now for your NFL news, I know you don't want to get into this because, you know, one of our teams got a W this Sunday. Hey, another win. Cowboys coming off another win. Hater.
This feels like a reoccurring theme.
Of you guys losing? What do you guys on a 4-game losing streak?
Yeah, 4-game losing streak.
Listen, the Bison Cowboys beat the Bears 49-29. Now, I don't like the fact that our defense let up 29 points, but still, we look good. Tony Pollard probably had one of his best games. He scored 3 touchdowns, 141 yards, and Ezekiel Elliott has been a starter for 6-7 seasons. He doesn't have a 3-touchdown game.
But this is something that I've been telling you guys all season. You need to get the ball in the hands of Tony Pollard, that's something that Jerry Jones needs to get through his head, because I know he paid Ezekiel Elliott that huge contract. I know he says that money talks, but to be honest, you have to give the ball to Tony Pollard. He's I wouldn't say the main thing carrying. Well, I guess he is the main thing carrying.
I would say he's
offense,
the main
but
thing
I wouldn't
in
say
the
he's carrying.
Yeah, no, he's not carrying it. But I would say he's the main piece in that backfield to get those yards. But like you said, money talks. Ezekiel Elliott has a big contract, so I guess they're going to use him till they can't anymore. Other than that, besides the interception, Dak Prescott, he looked pretty good. I mean, what was Rita's stats? 21 completions. You like that? I know you like that. You see CeeDee Lamb? You know, he's been having no more drop problems anymore. You see that touchdown? Between 2 defenders, I know you like that. That's 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. Come on, man. We're looking good, man. Michael Parsons, 11 for heaven. I know you like that career. First career touchdown, scoop and score. Bumming. That's a big guy right there. I know. Did you like it?
I had to give him credit on that play, though, for the awareness to know that he wasn't touched yet, to make sure that he could get up. And, you know, especially for a guy who is as young as he is, only in his 2nd season, you could easily get stuck in that college mindset of once I'm down, play's over. But thankfully, he knew that he wasn't touched yet, and the whistle hadn't blown. He could run to the end zone.
Yep, I'm feeling nice with this Cowboy blue on.
And,
you know what I mean?
And I told you guys that your offense was going to have to score more points. They were going to have to put more on the board because your defense can't hold down the fort forever. And, you know, scoring-wise, the defense did not do that this week. But the offense definitely made up for that this week.
And we're going to talk about this. Dak is supposed to be the guy to put up a lot of points, and our defense is supposed to do what they do and hold teams to less points. So I think this game was kind of a bad example because they did score 29 on us, but I still think we're looking good. We have a bye, and then after that, we got you guys in Lambeau. And hey, you think we're going to take it? We're in Lambeau. We're winning.
I don't know, but
we're going to take it. We're winning.
But speaking of us, the Packers lost on Sunday night to the Buffalo Bills to make it their 4th straight loss. But I'm going to be honest, though. Even though this was a loss, this was one of the better games that I think the Packers have played all year long. It was only a 27-17 loss. And one thing that I loved about this game, the fact that the Packers actually ran the ball. And this felt like the first time this year the Packers actually utilized the run game. Aaron Jones had 20 carries for 143 yards, and A.J. Dillon had 10 carries for 54 yards, almost 200 yards, actually over 200 yards rushing on the day from this Packers team. And that is something that I've emphasized all year long.
Yeah, you guys had over 200 rushing yards. I think that's a step in the right direction. You guys were looking good. But, hey, Stephon Diggs still had a couple bombers. You got to explain that. Stephon Diggs, what happened? What happened?
The Bills' offense is just a machine. I mean, it's hard to go into Buffalo on prime time and expect that your team's going to play. You have to be perfect in those kind of games. And, lining up some of those big plays. And the offense, too. They had a 4th down conversion that they failed to convert on late in the game. They also had a missed field goal. And we also had an interception in the 4th quarter right after we got one. So it's just you can't make those small mistakes, especially against a team like Buffalo. They will capitalize on those, and you are not going to win.
And then you guys just keep bringing down our former NDSU wide receiver, Christian Watson. He got injured twice with you guys.
3 times, actually.
3 times. Man, what's up?
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. And Buffalo banged up a lot of our guys. We lost Devondre Campbell in that game as well due to injury, and we definitely need him. And it was a chippy game all over. You see Jair Alexander and Stephon Diggs in the locker or in the tunnel before the game started, and there was a lot of that throughout the entire game. Quay Walker got ejected for pushing a practice squad tight end who wasn't even suited up in the game on the sideline. And, it's just unfortunate to have that happen. But, the injuries are definitely something that's starting to worry me, especially considering already in this game we didn't have Allen Lazard or Randall Cobb to begin with, and now losing Christian Watson. And now really thin at wide receiver, especially with having to play guys like Samori Toure, Amari Rodgers. And, to give Toure credit, I mean, he got his first career touchdown, the 7th-round rookie, and Romeo Doubs had himself another good game, 4 catches for 64 yards and a great touchdown. But I think that's also what makes you feel a little bit better. The fact that we had all these injuries, all this adversity, and we still made this game very competitive and looked very good doing so. So that gives me some confidence going forward.
I mean, I think moving forward, you guys maybe have – no, you don't. You have the Lions next week, and then you got us. That's a loss. And then after that, what do you got? The Titans. So you guys –
we got Titans on Thursday night. Then we go on Sunday night to play Philadelphia in Philly. And then we also play Chicago before our bye. So we have 5 more games yet before our bye.
Yep, and I'm thinking that's 3 losses in the next 3. So
I don't know. The only one at the moment that I actually see as 100% as a loss is the Philly game on Sunday night. No, I do not see your guys' game as a loss, especially coming up here to Lambeau.
I just want to say this. What was that? Last week, we were talking about this, and you're like, yeah, you might take it. We're not looking pretty good. Now you guys have a close game against the Bills. Now it's, I don't know, we might get you guys.
I was saying that because I didn't know if the offense would actually figure out how to utilize the talent we have on this offense. I was worried, we're going to go the whole season. Rodgers is just going to pass the ball, try to play hero ball, and we're never going to figure out the true key to this offense. But now that we figured it out, and it sounds like Rodgers is actually comfortable with that, I feel a lot better knowing that now, and especially after getting guys, when we get Lazard and Cobb back, this offense could be very dangerous, even with the lack of, I guess you could say, the lack of talent on this offense.
So you believe you guys are not down and out as long as you guys utilize the run game more?
Absolutely, and I feel like, especially if Rodgers gets that time with the play action, because teams are falling for it, he can return to his old form. Now, the one thing that I do worry about with our offense is our offensive line. It's a consistent shuffling because guys keep getting hurt, and it goes back to those injuries. Elton Jenkins was out this week, so Zach Tom, a rookie, had to start at guard, a position he never played at before, and he definitely had a rough night to say the least. But if this offensive line gets healthy too, I feel like this offense can be
well, at least on paper, you guys are looking good. You guys are second in your conference. We're second in our conference. I still think we're going to beat you guys in 2 weeks. But,
we're second in our conference, but at least you're right behind your team. The Vikings are running away from us because they keep winning by 1 possession every week. That's going to come back to bite them eventually. They can't just keep winning games by 1 possession every single week. They have to win by more, or they're going to start losing games.
Yeah, and let me just say this. Before the season even started, I approached you with this. I'm like, hey, people are saying the Vikings might have you guys this year. And you're like, nah, it's just talk. Now they got you. So, any explanation?
I don't know. I mean, the Packers. The Vikings. I'll give them credit. They have been winning their games. With the new head coach Kevin O'Connell. I feel like last year these are games with Mike Zimmer that they would have lost, but now that they got a new coaching, they've been winning their games, and I'll give them credit for that.
Well, we'll see. We have a bye, so make sure you tune into your game. Hopefully, you guys don't lose 5 games in a row. But thank you for tuning in to Bison Overtime. We'll catch you guys next Wednesday. Stay tuned.